Welcome to Behind the Bar. We have a lot of witness drama on day 4 of the Diddy trial after prosecutors announced that they have another victim who they will call to the stand to try to prove their case against Diddy. And in other news, we also know more about what prosecutors and the defense will say about the Cassie beating video. But Derek, before we get to that, let's just talk for a minute on what we now know about jury selection, which has been delayed.
It has been delayed. So the initial, what we heard initially from the court was that Friday was the day. They were going to exercise the peremptory challenges, get that 45-member panel down to the 12 jurors plus the 6 alternates. That did not happen. That has now been kicked to Monday. But there are assurances with the court that that will be a quick process because peremptory challenges are just, we strike this person, we'll have a jury on Monday.
Nobody who hasn't lived through this, don't read too much into this, don't read anything into it. Court schedules get tossed around all the time. They do their best to guess. The fact that things are pushed back happens literally in every single trial. It's just one of these things for calendaring purposes, the availability of the lawyers, the jurors. These things get pushed back. It happens. So that's being pushed back to Monday, presumably.
And you're right. You don't read too much into that because the judge has other things on his docket. They have motions practice. He is juggling a lot to carve out this time for the trial.
The judge has this trial, and it's his only trial going right now. He probably has another 200 cases on his docket. He has court every morning. He's got to handle a bunch of hearings and other cases until this case gets started. If one of those cases has an emergency hearing or whatever it is, it's going to take up his Friday. He's like, you know what, parties, don't even bother coming in because we're not going to get everything done. Respect for the jurors' times. Let's push it off. Don't read anything into that. More importantly,
yes.
We got this announcement, this document's filed in the Diddy case today saying the prosecution has now identified a victim, somebody calling victim 5, who they're going to call to testify against Diddy.
This is a bombshell because we have tracked this indictment from the very beginning. In the beginning of this case, all that was referenced was a victim number 1, which we later learned was Cassie. Subsequent to that, there have been superseding indictments that have listed another victims up to victim number 4. So all of them have remained anonymous in the indictment. We happen to know they haven't hidden very well, and they've related it to the video that victim 1 is Cassie. The other 3, we still don't know their identity. Now there's a reference to a victim 5. And there was a motion that was filed about what type of testimony by the prosecution about what type of testimony this victim number 5 was going to give. And there were references to 2 parts of the evidence code that Jason and I will explain to you, 403B and 413. Those rules under the evidence code refer to prior bad acts. What's a prior bad act, Jason?
So they say this idea is this, right? I can come in and say Derek Kaufman beat me and he should go to jail. If in order to prove that case, the prosecution calls somebody who Derek beat 5 years ago, not to prove his guilt in that case 5 years ago. We're not trying to prove that case, but again, to try and establish that Derek is a beater.
Yes.
He committed prior bad acts, as the name would sound, that prove that he's guilty in this case.
Right. So victims 1 through 4 are the victims he has to deal with in terms of the indictment. That is what they're trying to prove to find Diddy guilty. In doing so, they're looking further back in time. And sometimes a prior bad act can be beyond the statute of limitations. There's a whole host of reasons that they didn't include victim number 5 in this indictment, but it still could be useful for the jury to hear about things that Diddy has done in his past that could be relevant to proving that he did these things in the indictment.
So generally speaking, we don't have to go too far into this, but generally speaking, prior bad act testimony is not admissible in court. And the reason is obvious, right? It can be really prejudicial. Derek beats me. We go back 5 years, found he beat somebody else. A juror's going to say, this guy's a bad guy.
That's right.
But it doesn't really give evidence that you beat me.
That's right. We call this character evidence. And in our judicial system, in our criminal justice system, we punish bad acts. We punish people for doing bad things, but we don't punish people for being bad people. So it's very controversial to introduce evidence that someone is just a bad dude to prove that they did bad something in the current.
Right.
So you typically exclude this stuff, but the rules of evidence have allowances for certain types of bad acts, one of which we've seen in previous cases with Bill Cosby. It's called MO. If someone has done so many things over so long a period of time in such a specific way, drugging people in the same way.
So let's talk about Cosby, because it's a really easy one to handle.
It's a good way to illustrate this concept.
Cosby was being charged with the drugging and raping of a single woman. What was her name? Andrea Constant. In order to prove their case, what prosecutors did was they introduced evidence not just about the drugging and raping of Andrea Constant, but that he had drugged and raped many people over 50 years. Cosby's attorney said, no, those are prior bad acts, not admissible. The prosecution successfully argued that, no, what we're seeing here is an MO, a modus operandi in Latin, a way of doing things that Bill Cosby did. He specifically drugged them, knocked them out, and then allegedly had unwanted sexual relations
That's
with
right.
them. That's an MO. So that's an exception to the rule that bad acts are not admissible in current cases.
That's exactly right. And it is hard to get this stuff in. It has to be specific behavior for an MO. It has to be he slipped Mickeys in drinks. It can't just be in general he would use drugs at parties and things like that. So it is hard to get in. This witness, the other big outcome from today's court activity was that this victim is called victim number 5, but Judge Subramanian is not inclined to give this victim anonymity in her testimony. So if she takes the stand, which she can now take the stand and testify as to certain matters, she's going to have to do so by facing her accuser. She's going to have to face Diddy.
Jane Doe. She's not Jane Doe.
She won't be a Jane Doe.
She's going to have to say my name isn't, actually give her name, and there's going to be an opportunity to cross-examine her. Defense, I believe, probably knows who she is already.
Right.
They're building a dossier about her. And just like she's testifying to his bad acts, they're going to be able to cross-examine her on maybe her bad acts, whatever they might be. And, you have a right to cross-examine the accusers against your client, and she's going to be victimized,
right,
subject to that.
And she may be more fearful. Look, she went to the prosecutors to help, she's working with them to a certain extent, but was probably promised that she could maintain her anonymity, or at least they would work hard to maintain her anonymity. We'll see if she shows up. They're already having problems with victim number 3 in the case, who apparently hasn't been cooperating, is nowhere to be found. That's much more important to the prosecution's case, because that's someone who's in the indictment. They really need that witness to testify against Diddy.
All right, so let's go beyond that, back to victim number 1, Cassie.
This is the whole ball of wax.
Obviously, we have said from the beginning that the most important piece of testimony, really the piece that on which Diddy may sink or swim, is this Cassie beating video. The parties have now outlined how they intend to use this video, and for the defense part, how they intend to challenge the use of this video.
It's exactly right. So this is the centerpiece of the prosecution's case, especially with, we don't know where victim 3 is, what's going to go on with victim 5 and the others. Victim 1 is Cassie. She is pregnant. She is coming to court to testify. She will not be anonymous. She's going to be able to lay out sort of the contours of the relationship with Diddy that she had. Prosecutors are going to walk her through that tape. And what they have said is, we have multiple angles and multiple versions of this tape, because remember, Diddy's team called into question the CNN video. Yeah. CNN released a video. It is sped up in portions of it. It is edited, we think, just for time. And most people have seen it. It's not edited to sort of move things around, but just to compress it.
Segue, the attack on the CNN video, like how dare they change and alter the video? They're just trying to make television. That's the CNN's job, is not to create an evidentiary record. They're trying to make television. Videos are sped up all the time.
Right.
That has nothing to do with it. The video that the jury will see is not the CNN video. It is the original video that was captured off of the security monitor, apparently, and that's what they're going to see.
Yeah, and the jurors are going to see that in its totality, and it will read probably largely as the CNN video reads, but right. Diddy has to say something about, they edited this to make it look even worse. It looks sped up. It looks worse than it is. We've also learned, though, that they have indicated, Diddy's defense team, that part of their way of dealing with this video is to describe his relationship with Cassie, which was a number of years, as one of, quote, mutual violence. That the relationship itself, when put in appropriate context, actually had violence by both people. The problem with this is you are playing with fire. You've got a pregnant woman on the stand. That video does not look like mutual combat. She's being kicked while she's down, defenseless. She's being thrown around. She's not fighting.
Just to be clear,
how do you do this?
This is not a Shannon Sharp issue where he's saying that the violence was part of a consensual sexual relationship. That's not what they're saying, right? Or that she was consenting to being hit.
No.
I believe what he's saying is that, look,
we were volatile.
We sometimes got violent. She hit me. I hit her. The problem with that is the injury that he caused to her, the violence with which he struck her. And he is a big dude. He's not necessarily very tall.
Bigger than her.
Broad-shouldered, he's thick-chested. She is tiny. And when you see him ragdolling her across that hotel hallway and then kicking her over and over and then grabbing her by the hair and dragging her down the hallway, there's no mutual combat there.
No, I mean, I don't know how you reconcile this narrative with this video. It'd be one thing. There are certain videos which show, conflicts that start off as both parties beating each other and then maybe the man sort of beating the woman more soundly. That's not what's in this video. This video is her running to an elevator and him beating the snot out of her and kicking her while she's down. So if they want to play this, it's going to sound so self-interested. It's going to sound like Diddy trying to rationalize this conduct, but you don't see her behaving this way in this video. So I think it's going to fall really flat and backfire.
Even if they were to somehow establish that she had previously punched him in the face or tackled him or whatever it was. There is no justification for what we saw. But I got to tell you, even if he was the one lying on the ground and she was doling out the beating, it is so violent, it wouldn't matter the gender of them. It is so freaking violent when he kicks her and her body slumps down and rolls over like has given up. It's painful to watch.
If he ends up losing this case, people are going to question this decision to proceed with Cassie's testimony in this way. The other way to do it is to sort of lay down your swords,
That's
let
what
her
we
give her
had heard
testimony.
before this,
Yes.
right? That they were gonna just say, like Diddy's gonna say, I would apologize. It was a moment in time. I've never done anything like that before. It's the most embarrassing moment of my entire life. I'm humiliated, but it doesn't mean I committed all these various crimes they're accusing me of. Remember, he is not being charged with beating Cassie. He's being charged with other crimes, and they're introducing this video to show that he's a really bad dude who also committed not only this crime, but lots of other crimes.
That's why I can't rationalize it. Save your bullets for the witnesses that you can take on and you can sort of cross-examine more vigorously. Cassie's not the one to do it with, and in this way, if they really play this mutual violence theme out, I think it could really backfire for them.
And attorneys adjust on the fly all the time. Just because they said that's their intent now doesn't mean that's actually going to play out, right? Cassie may get up there, the jury may be in tears, horrified, and they may go into the back room and say, we're not going to go.
You got to pivot on the fly.
Thing, right? And they're very, very good lawyers. They'll pivot if necessary.
All right, so let's take some questions. This is there's a lot going on. I think Monday we're going to get a ton of new development because you're really going to see both sides frame their case with opening statements, assuming they can seat this jury early on in the day, and it's the action's really going to ramp up. But let's take a look. So Thunderbolt 210 says, if he's found not guilty, the victims could sue him civilly.
Of course.
Absolutely. Many already are.
Yeah.
And those cases are pending still. Tony Busby has filed, tens of them, maybe 100 of them at this point. They are pending and they will go forward. You'll definitely see. He's going to be living with this for a long time.
If he's found guilty, I hate to say it, but my guess is the number of lawsuits might double.
Easily. Easily. Everyone comes out of the woodwork at that point.
Right.
SAS 1000 says, if Diddy is found not guilty, can he countersue?
Well, he'd have to have a claim. He could certainly sue anybody whose claims he can prove were made up, malicious, completely false. They lied. They stated under oath something that wasn't true. He could sue them for that.
Malicious prosecution against the
prosecutors.
Is very far-fetched in this kind of case.
I mean, just when people are acquitted of crimes, it doesn't mean they can turn around and sue the prosecutor for bringing the claims in the first place.
Although Alec Baldwin did
in the first place, he did. But good point. He sued because there was a ruling by the bench that the prosecutors had played fast and loose with the evidence, hadn't turned over, maybe had doctored some evidence. That was the allegation. If Diddy could show that they doctored evidence or they cajoled a witness into lying, he would then have a lawsuit against the feds.
But beating a case, OJ didn't sue for malicious prosecution, like that doesn't happen. He was also found not guilty. He didn't go ahead and sue Los Angeles. Doesn't happen.
All right. So again, on Monday morning, the court will reconvene. They're going to try to impanel that 18 people, 12-person jury, 6 alternates. That's going to happen hopefully early in the morning on Monday. Hopefully that can be done maybe lunchtime, and then we'll start to get opening statements from the prosecution Monday afternoon.
Yep. Stay tuned.